Hi everybody, this is Leah of seejanedrill. Now I'm holding hardware that I have to install. Let me pull it out of the package here. Now I have about 30 of these that I have to install, and I want to make certain that every one is perfectly centered and even. Now I've already installed 2 on these folding pantry doors. Now it's time for me to install the matching pole on this broom closet door here. So the Craig jig cost me $25 in a big box store, but I'm going to tell you this. I have a lot of hardware to install. You may only have a few pieces that you need to put in, right? It may serve you to just make a jig instead of purchasing one. So let me show you how the cabinet hardware jig works. Now these knobs here, they adjust the bar on the back of the tool. So the knobs control the bar that slides back and forth. This bar rests on the edge of the door style, okay? Now what I like about the tool, or this jig, is you have imperial measurements here at the top, and then toward the center, you have the metric equivalent. Now these holes here, they're adjustable, and I've set them to match my hardware perfectly. If you can see, at the 5-inch mark, that's what I've got it set at. I've asked my camera person to come in close. These are adjustable, these drill guides. And again, like these knobs here, you've got imperial measurements and then you have the metric. Now I'm going to flip this over to the back side to show you how it adjusts. You just turn it, okay? Just turn it a little bit so you're able to slide it to where you need it and then tighten it up so it stays there. Just like that. So once you set up the jig to install your hardware, you only have to set it up that one time. You have to really think of this as being like a template, and you move it from door to door to door, and you'll get the same exact results. Your hardware will match up perfectly. So the distance between this post and this post is 5 inches. So I have to make certain that my holes, the ones that I drill, are 5 inches apart. So when you're installing hardware, the most important thing is to keep it centered. Now this is called the stile, this piece of wood here. And our center point has already been marked. There it is. That's our center point. So this is the center point between this edge and this edge. And that's where my hardware needs to rest, right there. So we know that is where I want to secure it. But where on the stile, right? How do I make certain that I center that perfectly? Well, I'm using this cross piece as a reference point. And what I've done is I've divided this piece of wood in half. From this edge to this edge, that's our center point. So my pull here has to be perfectly centered above and below this point. So this is where the jig comes in. My posts are 5 inches apart, remember? Notice how I have this set up on 5 and this set up on 5. These are my guides. So you can see how the holes line up perfectly with the jig, okay? Because I'm going to be drilling through these holes. Do you see this line? Well, this line tells me that I'm perfectly centered. So if I slide my jig here, and I've already got it set on the stop. There's a stop behind here. It lines up perfectly with that mark. Perfectly. See our little line right there? It lines up perfectly below as well. Our last center point is here. Notice how there's a 0 here in a slot. Well, we want to make certain that that 0 lines up perfectly with our last mark. So there you go. Our center point lines up perfectly with the 0. Do you see it? So keep in mind we have 3 center points to worry about. We're lined up here, we lined up here, and we're lined up below. Now once your jig is set up on all 3 points, it's time to clamp the jig securely to the door. So I've got my jig secure. Now I'm going to take a drill driver with a 3/16 inch bit here. I'm going to insert it right there into the guide, and now I'm just going to drill. There we go. Now I'm going to repeat the process on the upper hole. So I'm taking off the jig. There's my holes. So here are my screws. I've got a set of 4. because they give you long ones and short ones. I'm going to just use the long screws. So I've got my screws in place here. Now I'm just going to start threading them a little bit. There we go. And once I have it pretty threaded, then what I'll do is I'll use my drill driver to snug it up. This is the back side of the door. I've got my drill driver here. I'm going to just... Now I'm just going to repeat the process on the bottom, snug it up. That's perfect. This is Leah saying you can do this. See you next time.